Welcome. Welcome to the Sustainable Weight Loss After 40 event. My name is Paula James. I've been a colleague of Dr. Ginny's for, I've known her for about a year and a half. And I'm so impressed with her dedication to the research and to getting the message out. And so I'm here today to support you in getting as much as you can out of this week. So I really encourage you to be present to the live event as much as possible. So minimize distractions, close your other windows, turn off your phone, really maximize your focus. And also you might find it helpful to get a notepad and pen so that you actually physically write down insights that you can see and kind of get it into your hand, into the shape of the letters too. And plan to engage actively in the event. I will be monitoring the chat to make sure that any questions come come to Ginny's attention, and just to help make sure that the connection between you and Ginny is good. And I now, please help me welcome Dr. Ginny Trierweiler to the screen.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you so much for emceeing. I'm always so taken with how beautiful Paula is. I'm sorry, I can't see how beautiful the rest of you are, but I am touched by women over a certain age looking so beautiful, because I think when I was younger, I didn't realize. I didn't look at them, right? It's an interesting dynamic in our culture. Anyway, I'm really glad people came back. I hope that we piqued your curiosity about why dieting is the wrong thing to do. And we need to do something completely different. And I really, that's why we take 5 hours here, is because doing something completely different isn't just a matter, isn't Paula lovely? I know, isn't just a matter of, I'm gonna eat less. That really is not the answer at all. And I really want you to get that takeaway, if nothing else, this week. So that's the #1 mistake women are making over 40. It's dieting, calorie cutting, we're basically trying to force our body to release excess weight and burn fat. And our body's going to fight back. That's not going to work for us. And I'm going to show you the proof of this in various different ways. One of the things, as a scientist going to the research, trying to figure out what actually works, I didn't, there's like 6,000 pieces of this is good for you and that's bad for you and this is good for you, and they conflict with each other. So I wanted to see principles that rose to the top that really work predictably and reliably and aren't just the latest kind of idea, right? So here's some of the mistaken beliefs we're trying to change. We thought we knew how to eat healthy, and we were mistaken. And this is like a painful message to be giving you, but we have been way too misled. We'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow and Thursday. So actually figuring out what's healthy to eat and slenderful to eat is not easy in this environment. I had to spend a year in the research myself to find the answers. It's not easy to find at all. So it's really important that we recognize that we have some mistaken ideas mixed in with the true ideas. And figuring out the difference between those takes a bit of guidance. So the other thing is, we thought we knew how to lose weight. Or a lot of us did, not everybody. I know I definitely do work with some women who are like, I have always struggled with my weight. But a lot of the women I work with are like, I did fine, like me, until menopause. And then everything that worked, that should work, isn't working anymore, and the world is unfair, and I'm mad, right? I mean, did you feel that way, Paula?
Yeah, so things like, well, it used to be easy, or, oh yeah, A plus B used to equal C, and it doesn't anymore.
Why doesn't it work anymore?
The math doesn't add.
2 + 2 = 4, and now it doesn't? What's up with that, right? So I really hope you're going to get a lot more insight about the nuances playing in here, because we've had these really simple stories that ultimately are wrong, right? There might have been kernels of truth, but they're ultimately wrong. So I'm going to keep proving this from different angles this week. Yeah. All right. So this is one piece of proof. Our eating changed and obesity rates skyrocketed. So I showed a picture yesterday of people on the beach in their 60s versus people walking down the street now, and it's been this huge change. Just in one generation, from 1960 to 2010, the obesity rate in adults went from 15% to 40%.
That is dramatic. I mean, it's
right.
And then it just shoots up.
Now, and it's expected to be 50% by 2030. This is wrong. If you look back at 1890, it was about 3%. Right? And back then, when people were obese and they said, it's my genetics or it's some kind of condition I have, they were right. That's about the rate it should be. Oh. No, it shouldn't be 40, 50%. Yeah, Paula, you were going to say something.
Well, no, just the genes wouldn't have changed that dramatically.
Right, exactly. It doesn't happen that fast, right? So from 1891 in 30 to 2000, 1 in 3. That's about 1,000% increase.
That's shocking.
Right? So what if it just doubled from 3% to 6%? That'd be 100% increase. That would feel like a lot.
Right.
Is ridiculous. Something is wrong. And we know it's tied to our eating, the changes in our eating more than anything. Why do I make such a point about this being so dramatic? It's because those of us who think we're eating better than other people may still be pretty far off. Right. And I'll make more of that point the next 2 days. So obesity rates skyrocketed. Also, rates of heart disease skyrocketed. So at the turn of the century, the beginning of the 20th century, heart disease was a very uncommon cause of death. By the middle of this century, it had become the most common cause of death. Again, very tied to our eating. And you can see that 80% number down there is referring to how many of these cases of heart disease and stroke are preventable. So it's not 100%. Some people might have heart disease without eating wrong, but for most of us, changing our eating can completely change these risks. Another statistic I saw is high blood pressure in 1890 was under 5% of people had high blood pressure. Now, just looking at people, no, that was over 65. Less than 5%. Now, 33% of all adults in the United States have high blood pressure. And we just think it's pretty normal and we just have to take pills for it. Right. And those pills lead to other pills and other side effects and problems, right? Paula and I talk about this because she's a physical movement specialist.
Right. And so, I mean, it's not a shortage of pills that's causing trouble. There's something else causing the trouble, and then we're trying to address it with pills, right. Trying to address the thing that caused the problem in the first place.
Right. So high blood pressure is up 600% since 1890. So something is going very wrong, and these things go together.
Right. So I just there's a question in the chat. So what percentage of adults today have high blood pressure?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting trying to look for the statistics because they'll report it one way this year and a different way another year. Yeah. I have a hard time finding the heart disease statistics, and here's why. All they're reporting is how many fewer deaths we're having. So here's all the progress we're making on people dying of it, but finding the statistics on how many people have it is not very easy. So all of this is traced to massive increases in added sugar and sweeteners and processed foods more than anything.
Okay, so right. There's that question in the chat. What ways do you feel our eating has changed? So can you just say those again? So
I'll talk more about it in the next couple of days, but right now I'm just emphasizing that it's added sugars and sweeteners and processed foods.
Great.
All right. Diabetes is a very serious disease, right? How many people have noticed a huge increase in dialysis centers in your town? Like I started noticing in Denver, another dialysis center. What is going on? Well, look at the rate of increase and this is just diagnosed diabetes. We know that this is an underestimate of the rate, but back in 1935, like less than 1% of people, right?
Right.
And now it's more, well, that's showing 2020. Yeah, so what I read right now is it's more like in the 10 to 12% diagnosed.
it's still in the rate of diagnosis is still increasing.
It's huge. Yeah, it's still increasing. So it's clear that obesity, diabetes, and heart disease are rising dramatically, and it's all tied to how we eat more than anything. But our society puts forth a particular story. These are naturally occurring diseases that just happen as we age. And our doctors tend to think of it this way: don't worry, we've got a pill for that, or we've got a surgery for that, right? Because that's how doctors are trained. I'm not anti-doctors, by the way. I'm not anti-medical care when we need it. But if we can change our eating and not have to get into all those medications and surgeries and doctor's visits, especially like I don't live in the United States anymore, but so many of my friends and family and clients do, it's not that easy to get in and get good care and be able to afford it and feel like you're going to succeed, right?
Well, it can be like a part-time job, scheduling and then driving to appointments and then sitting in the waiting room and then spending time. So, even if you're able to get in, that can be a big chunk of your life.
Right. And who wants to spend our lives like that if we can possibly avoid it? It actually doesn't turn out to be that hard. So I'm just showing my pictures again to say, I thought I knew how to eat healthy, and I thought I knew how to lose weight. I used to do eat less and exercise more, which is what everyone's told to do. I used to choose better snack alternatives, but my hormones changed and everything that used to seem like it worked wasn't working anymore. I wasn't able to lose weight. I just kept gaining more weight, right? I had all these disease processes that I talked about: hot flashes and insomnia and brain fog and pain and inflammation, barely able to walk. But the story I heard was, this is normal and inevitable because of your age and the hormone changes. So I really want to give you more of a sense of what's going on with our hormones today. Because what if this conclusion that it's a normal part of aging is wrong? We don't have to live like this. What if the way we're eating and approaching weight loss is farther off than we realize? And it's not that hard to change it when you learn how it works, right? Like I wasn't experiencing ill effects of my way of eating and my way of losing weight until I hit these hormone changes. But then I was able to completely reverse it when I changed my eating, all of those symptoms. So I like this rust analogy that, maybe I thought I was getting away with it, but my body was rusting inside. And once I lost the protective factor of estrogen, then everything really started to show up. Your body's in more trouble than you realized.
I've seen these photos before, Ginny, but I'm just right now struck by the dramatic difference in how you appear in just such a short time.
Yeah. I get emotional about it because I look at myself in 2014 and I look kind of dead. I look like the aliveness has gone out. I didn't know that finding an effective way to lose weight would bring back so much more aliveness. I feel more alive and energized and vital now than I felt in my 30s and 40s. And I'm now in my 60s, right? So I want to make this point that's kind of interesting. Scientists are now looking at this package of problems: obesity, diabetes, heart disease. There's other ones that go with it: high blood pressure, high blood sugar. They're looking at it and they're saying this looks exactly like what happens with animals who are confronting food scarcity. So we see this in populations of animals. They start foraging like crazy for food. They even forego rest to search for food, right? They're like, I lived in Colorado for a long time. And if you're up in the mountains, out in the wilderness in September, you got to be careful about bears because they are out there searching for food, right? It's because they know they're going to go several months without having access to food. Their body switches on some kind of system. Their blood pressure rises, their blood sugar rises. They start storing extra fat. Their metabolism slows down and they become diabetic because that's going to serve them when they go into hibernation. So what's happening in our biology right now in our population looks like a switch gets flipped, like in a population of animals facing food scarcity. Isn't that interesting?
It is, yes.
So it really is just another way of looking at how our diet has become way less nutritious than we realize. And we're going to talk more about this specifically tomorrow and Thursday.
While we're still on this screen, if you're comfortable with it, there's a question in the chat. Can you tell us again how much weight you lost?
60 pounds.
60 pounds.
I went from a size 16, 18 to a size 6, 8. And I'm pretty sure I could have kept going, but I got scared. Like, oh no, 6, 8, what the heck kind of size is that? Anyway, those clothes were a lot more fun to shop for.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm so much more light on my feet, right?
Yeah.
And able to hike in the mountains again. So for now, here's the assertion I want you to hear. From a lot of research and observation and experience, we're not eating enough highly nutritious foods to be well. We're not eating enough highly nutritious foods to be slender. Right? I'm gonna try to prove this a little bit. Any other questions to address?
I think you're going to talk about it some more later, but just a 4 question marks after being diabetic serves an animal while in hibernation?
Yes, because they, that slowdown of their metabolism, that insulin resistance helps them not burn off the fat too fast. Helps them hold on, and they live off the fat, both for the calories that they're needing, but also for the water they are not getting. Imagine going 3 months asleep and not having water.
Okay. So if they didn't go into a diabetic insulin resistant state, then they might need to come out of hibernation too early.
Right.
Because they'd be out
or die.
Yeah.
Right. Hummingbirds end up diabetic by the end of every day and live off that
through the night.
During the night. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So all these things serve us if we're in a food scarcity situation.
Okay.
Right. So if we have to survive with a lack of food, it's not a bad thing to be diabetic and carrying extra fat. But that's not the world we're actually living in. We're just not getting nutrition from our food. Okay. Right? Let me see what else I wanted to say about this. All right, so it's actually not hard to do this. I was so relieved to find out, but it's not done by starving ourselves. We really have to get that mindset away, right? Once I learned to feed my body what it actually needs, all these things corrected, right? The prediabetes, the high blood sugar corrected, the pain and inflammation I'd lived with for decades corrected, my insomnia corrected, my brain fog, like my brain started functioning like it should again, and the weight came off. So I'm always trying to put these together because I'm really not just about how do I get the weight off as fast as possible. I'm about how do I get slender for good, like get my healthiest body that's happy to let go of the weight. It was a big insight to me, right? It became so easy and natural to lose the weight in that situation. Yeah? All right. So I want to talk about hormones. I worry that this is too much content, by the way. Some people tell me, I took 10 pages of notes just on that one session. It's a lot of insights, right? And I apologize if I'm like fire hosing you. I can't help it. I have to see if I can help you know it.
We are recording, so if you feel overwhelmed with the fire hosting, then come back and watch the replay so you can.
Yeah, thank you.
Think about it and then move forward some more. Good.
All right, I definitely can turn this slide off, I think. So what we eat affects our hormones. So that's what I said I would talk about today. What is going on with our hormones, right? So we're getting this drop in estrogen and it's leading to a big change in the systems in our bodies, right? In our current undernourished food environment, that leads predictably to weight gain and to health declines, especially cardiometabolic health and brain health. So one of the most interesting books I read in recent years that I recommend to everybody is the XX Brain. So it's talking about women's brains and it's got a lot of depth to it. So if you're trying to figure out, should I go on estrogen replacement, et cetera, it helps guide you on that. The thing that I hadn't realized is how at risk our brains are after we lose that estrogen, and how, like, if I got away with eating moderately okay, but not great, up until now. Now I'm starting to have brain fog. Now I'm starting to have hot flashes. These are indications something's wrong in the functioning of my brain. Now it's time to figure out for reals how to eat healthy and give my body the best chance to do well, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I want you to get a more nuanced understanding of how hormones affect our weight. So we talked a little about estrogen. Let's talk about the hormones that regulate whether we're hungry or we feel satisfied. Anybody experiencing like, I really would like to lose weight, but I'm pretty sure I have to eat less, wrong. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to feel deprived and hungry, and not only hungry, but hangry and insatiably hungry.
Well, and also that, well, I get low blood sugar and then I get dizzy and then
Yes.
So if some people might be able to go longer without food, but I can't because like all systems start shutting down, right?
Yes, and I totally believed that for a very long time. Like I get really low blood sugar. I have to eat more often than other people. So when I started studying the hormones involved here, I started learning about the hormones that regulate hunger and satiety. And I discovered that most of us now have very dysregulated systems. So most of us are feeling hunger more like a bear going into hibernation. It's right. Our body's saying, I'm not getting the nutrition I need. Eat more. I don't care how much you just ate. Keep eating, right? 2 hours later, I think I need to eat again. Yeah, right. So these hormones are called leptin and ghrelin, and we're finding in most people now in the United States, these are disordered. They are functioning in a disordered way. So we never get the brain signal that says, that was enough. Now go do something. In fact, what our brain says is that wasn't enough. Go lay down.
Wow. Okay.
So we find this with leptin resistant mice. Like they get really, really overweight. All they want to do is eat. They don't care if there's a potential sex partner. No, I'm not going to do that, right? They are just looking for food. They won't even get up and move across the cage unless it's to get food. So if you feel like a couch potato more than you would like, if you feel really low energy, these hormones could be a big part of that.
Okay.
And they really are, right? Alarming, right, Sonia? And they really are tied to what we're eating and how we're eating. Okay, here's another hormone to be really aware of. Cortisol is going up when we're dieting. So we're getting too high levels of cortisol. Now, what does cortisol feel like, Paula?
Well, cortisol is a stress hormone, like alarms, like you're in danger.
Right. Like we want to get a rush of cortisol if there's a bunch of brake lights in front of us on the highway. We don't want to be chronically having high levels of cortisol. And this is part of what we're finding is that when we're dieting, we're having increased cortisol. So that's a hormone that's really going to matter. What's it going to make us feel like? Anxious. It's going to make, I think it's there because if we're in a food scarcity situation, we need to stay awake and find food.
Right. Well, and so cortisol is part of that. Keep yourself awake and doing things. It doesn't have anything to do with rest, digest your food, prepare, which makes sense for why we're seeing so much other illness.
Right. It interferes with our sleep, right? And it's associated with weight gain. So it's just part of that whole package of issues, right? And so leptin and ghrelin, the hunger hormones, satiety hormones, and cortisol are getting messed up when we're dieting, right? Also, insulin is getting messed up when we're dieting. So we change, so our body changes how it handles energy coming in. It changes how it handles calories, right? So it starts storing more fat. Apparently, we're in a low nutrition, a low food situation. We need to start storing more fat. It reduces our energy expenditure. So we get that couch potato syndrome, right? So this whole package of changes in our hormones when we diet makes it so much more likely that we're going to end up gaining weight. So our body is trying to solve the problem of inadequate nutrition. It's like the opposite approach that we need to use to succeed, right?
Right. So
go ahead.
I'm just drawing from the chat. So we have a question about what do leptin and ghrelin do?
One of them controls whether we feel hungry, and
Okay.
one of them controls whether we feel full and like it's time to stop eating.
Okay. Like you've got enough fuel in the car, you could drive somewhere now.
Right. Go do something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we looks like these systems are disordered in our current food environment,
Okay.
right?
But I'm fine. I just want to draw a line under this. So they're disordered in the current food environment of eating lots of added sugar and processed foods, but they also get disordered in another way when we diet, when you restrict calories.
Right.
So dieting, it just is a different version of disorder. It's not actually bringing you into a highly regulated, functional, healthy state.
It's disrupting the regulation of our system. Yeah, right?
Way, yes.
So it's changing our biochemistry. So we're going to seek more food. So our brain is like, keep eating. I didn't get food. I didn't get food yet. So yeah, part of what you're saying, Paula, is we're eating too much non-nutritious food-like substances. They are messing up our leptin and ghrelin. They're messing up our cortisol. We're eating inadequate amounts of nutritious food, right? All right, so I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Are there questions I need to address?
Good, right now.
Okay, cool. All right, so I want to share Lily's story. Lily's one of my success stories. Lily's one of those people who was great at dieting and exercise, and it always worked. And she was like me, like, I get it, and everyone should just do what I'm doing because I have it all figured out. After, she always says, I had my first hot flash, and 1 month later, I was 13 pounds heavier, and all the things I knew to do stopped working. And it was 10 years of this isn't working. Why isn't it working? I proved to myself many times that this works. So how come it's not working anymore? Like the more she tried, the more weight she gained. By the time she found me, she was so scared. Like, I'm scared to do anything because it's just going to make things worse, right? And that's what the research shows. The best way to end up overweight is to diet.
Wow. She looks like a different person there.
Right?
Yeah.
She was. And then I have to tell you, so most of my clients won't take the before picture. All I get is their after pictures. I was like that too. I had to go searching. Do I have any before pictures? The one that I'm using was from a video. I was having to make videos for my business at the time. And yeah, I really didn't let people take pictures of me. Lily was so unhappy with her excess weight. It was so out of line with how she viewed herself. She was avoiding visiting people she loved. It was really affecting her life, right? Once she got the whole formula for how to eat to really nourish your body and get slender for good, she easily dropped the excess weight. She feels so happy and confident in her healthy, fit appearance again. She's training for a marathon again, now in her 60s. How did she do this? She quit trying to starve her body and force it to release weight, and she followed the Slender for Good eating method. There's just not that many eating methods out there that are going to give you sustainable, healthy results. Now that she decided to follow this, she loves how much she gets to eat. She thoroughly enjoys eating this way, and she says it just keeps working like magic. Now, she was about to spend $8,000 doing cool sculpting. And that's one of those kind of surgical remedies that I think you're going to keep having to invest in like every year, right? And she still wouldn't have known how to eat,
right?
Be healthy.
So she probably would have put it right back on.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a question that was in the chat from a little while ago about what foods do you recommend for brain fog? And I think you just mentioned it with Lily, that it's not like specific foods, which would be like a tip, right? It's the whole approach. It's getting the whole formula into play.
Yeah, well, the great news about this is the same things that give us the slender, like resetting our weight back down to a slender size, are the foods that make our brain healthier, and the foods that make our heart healthier, and the foods that make all of our organs and our cells and our systems function better. So really the question that we need to start shifting to is, how can I eat what will make my body really healthy and happy for as long as possible, right? Like I think we are getting really sick in our 60s and 70s, most of us, and we're ending up spending the last 10 years of our lives sick and taking more and more medications. We should be pretty well if we're eating right. well into our 90s, if not until 100. And that's the position I feel I'm in now. Like I need to take care of myself and manage my finances and stuff because I'm going to live to be 100 now and still be hiking in the mountains, right? So it's like this dramatic change that comes from just getting clear how to eat.
Right.
And it is a comprehensive change in our eating. What does my body actually need? Yeah. But it's really popular out there in the media. Like, I've got the best, here's the latest thing you can eat that will magically make your brain start functioning better. I love those ideas, by the way. I was always looking for the magic cure, even though part of my brain is going, there's no magic cure. That's going to take you to the snake oil salesman. Stop it.
Right.
Right. All right. So any more questions about Lily? Let's see here. Okay, I just rushed through this perhaps because now I'm like, I'm like done. All right, so what's my key point here? If you want to have a slender, healthy, happy body for good, quit fighting with your body and commit to working with it. It's just a whole different approach. So I remember, and it was a kind of gradual shift, but shifting from, body, would you just do what I want you to do? Just let go of the weight and quit fighting me, to, I'm sorry, body, I'm going to pay attention to what actually seems to work for you. And it's hard, right? The things we're eating, it's like this, I don't know how many different things we eat in a day, how many different things we do in a day that can affect how we feel, our energy, our gut, our weight, etc. So I'm going to change one thing. No, I'm going to change 6 things, and I'm not going to know what worked or what didn't work. So getting a really, for me, finding something that was very clear and specific about how to eat that would give my whole, everything about my body the best chance was massive. Yeah. Are you finding the same thing, Paula?
Yeah, because then it's like you have a comprehensive framework. You're not just trying different tips, but even if the tip is a good one, if you're bringing that tip into a very dysregulated system,
yeah,
how is it going to work for you? Like you need to have the full, okay, we're moving in the direction of health and balance, and then some of those little things that are helpful can actually work.
Yes. And if we're bringing a good tip into a system that is really working well, then there's this little value add, right? But it becomes really important to discern, like what I really teach my clients is, there are 4 fundamental principles that add up to results. They translate to very clear and specific quantities of protein, fats, vegetables, and fruit and grains. You can take any tip you want if it fits within those 4, and it could be value added. But taking tips as though they're the top principle now, you know, the big thing for me, I have a friend who got really into cacao. Like, cacao is the thing. It's going to fix everything. Probably not. You know, that would be nice.
Right. Well, because if you have a dysregulated system and you have a framework that doesn't work, then it's almost like taking the pill. It's taking the tip as a magic pill. Oh, this will make everything work in spite of the fact that there's no basis for health here.
Right. Yeah.
It needs to get that functioning basis.
It really helps us to have fundamental principles that give us that basis for health, right? And you do the same thing with the work that you do, helping people get their physical function working, right? Their posture, their movement.
Right, because it's very similar, and I don't want us to get off track here, but a lot of people think just strength and stretching and cardio. But I know lots of people that have exercised their way into joint damage and chronic pain. Yes. So it's really about how are you moving? What's the quality of your alignment, the quality of your movement, the quality of your working with your body. And when that's right, then you'll be more inclined to do active things for fun. You won't necessarily have to sentence yourself to miserable exercise sessions.
Right.
Like you'll say, oh, I'd like to go hiking this week, or I'd like to go to a dance, and
right.
some pleasure in that.
Right. Kickboxing or whatever.
Right.
Yes.
Good. So we do have a question in the chat about, could you could you talk about the 4 principles again? Could you share with us about the Slender for Good eating method? And I think the point we really are making this week is this is the preparation, right? We want to first talk about the things that don't work, but I want to make sure that the chat doesn't get ignored. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's what I teach in my program, the 4 fundamentals and all the nuance that goes into it, partly because, there's just so much unlearning. What I found is after I found these answers, people would ask me at chorus practice, like, we got 1 minute, what are you doing? Can you give me the answer? And I tried for like a year to give people the quick and dirty. Nobody benefited, not a tiny bit. So you're getting sort of a high level view of a couple of my main principles. You can hear one of them is eat abundant, highly nutritious foods. Now, most people who think they're doing that, once they join my program and learn what that actually looks like, it's like, okay, I wasn't eating that much. Right? People are surprised. It's a lot of food. Like
so it's actually 2 things. It's to eat abundantly the highly nutritious food, and then it's to avoid the highly processed added sugar foods.
Those are the 2 I talk about in this event, right? There's 4 principles. I give you a high level view of those 2. And the thing is, everybody thinks they know these. I already know I should eat more fruits and vegetables. I already know I shouldn't eat processed food. It doesn't help to have that high level of view of it, but I need to give you enough of a view of what my approach is based in so you can say, well, that totally makes sense.
Right.
Maybe there's some nuance to that if I learn it, it'll change everything, right? So the abundant nutritious foods thing, most of the people that I meet, the women, smart, well-read, successful women who think they got it figured out and feel they're eating abundant nutritious foods, when they learn what it actually is, they were only eating 1/4 to 1/10 the amount that.
Well, and it is a surprise. I was cooking dinner. This was a little bit earlier in the program before he got used to it. And my husband came in and I was making a meal. I hadn't expected him to be home so early. I was making a meal. He came in, he saw what was in the skillet and he said, could I have some of that? I said, no, this is all. I'm going to eat all of this. If you would like some of your own, I will make another portion for you of whatever size you want. But no, we're not sharing my portion. This is what I will eat.
It really takes a lot of food to get your body to go, okay, I'm ready to start releasing excess weight now. Yeah, it's just for at least most of the people who start doing this, they're like really thrilled with the amount of food they get to eat.
Well, it's to eat enough that you can start releasing excess weight, but also to eat enough that you really get those hormones of satiety saying,
yes.
Oh, now we've had enough.
Okay.
Like I'm quit bugging you to eat more because
yes,
I have enough to work with now.
Yes. So yeah, sorry, I don't go into depth with all of it. What I found is I can teach it in about 8 hours to people who are like, I'm ready to change my eating. There's no point to me trying to
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too fast.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? So we want to quit fighting our bodies. So we want to commit to understanding and respecting and nourishing our bodies. So I was starting to say, I went from body would you just to, okay, I really want to learn what helps you and what harms you. And I want to get really committed to doing only what helps you. And I want to quit making excuses for why harming you a little bit is not that big a deal. Because I don't think it's true. It doesn't look true. You know, from looking at our society, it doesn't look true from what happened with my body and from all the people, all the clients that I see. It's just, I don't think it's true. A little won't hurt anything. Yeah. So I talk about the highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. I'm just going to introduce this idea because I think I have time today. So the things I used to call treats that were like, okay, I know this isn't really good for me, but I don't think it's that bad for me. It's a treat. I'll just have a little. These are really popular ideas in our society. I said them all the time. We say them to each other all the time. Oh, you're feeling depressed? Let me bring over something non-nutritious as a treat for you. We don't think of it like that. So I started changing the way I talked about it to myself. The psychology matters here. If I call it a treat, I'm going to feel really deprived if I quit eating it. So I started calling it chip niffles. So it's cravingful. So it's the kind of thing that makes me crave something that's not good for me. I don't want that. That's miserable. It's highly processed, right? It's non-nutritious, and it's a food-like substance, not even really a food. So I just really started changing my mind. Chip niffles are not treats. And if I hear myself say that to myself, I'm going to stop and pay attention. What's going on here? I'm saying I want to eat something that's highly processed and non-nutritious, and I'm going to call it a treat. I'm going to treat it like it's special. By the way, my special approach to eating had become an every night approach to eating. Not that special. And I would finish the whole amount of food that seemed like it should be a whole meal. And then I would feel like I just need a little more something sweet right now. I think I just need a little more something salty right now. Now, just a little more wine. Has anybody else had this experience? Like you watch yourself do it and you're like, there's something wrong with this.
Right.
There's something wrong with this. But like I was trying to go for some extra super special experience every single night. And we're really encouraged to approach it that way, maybe especially women over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm going to do wine tastings. I'm going to get super, super excited about wine and chocolate but I'm spending a lot of money on it. So it's not like I'm some drug addict, right?
Right.
I'm
and I'm doing it as a party. It's social. So it's not me alone.
But all those things I was defending were things that were hurting my body, were adding up to real results in my body. So I just really wanted to change my whole psychology so that chip niffles were not prioritized so high. And I'm going to talk tomorrow about how did we end up prioritizing them to the degree we did, and what is the food industry doing to trick us into thinking it's not that big a deal.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Any questions? Any other comments? What do you guys think?
Yeah, if you'd write in the chat, how is this landing for you, right? This whole idea that treats might actually, I mean, the image that's coming to me, or the idea that's coming to me as you're talking about it, is if you think about a relationship between your mind and your body. Well, if it was a relationship with a friend or a family member, how much lying is
right? Yes.
How many mean comments are a good idea, right? And so taking in something that's non-nutritious, a food-like substance that's going to set you off in a bunch of cravings. How is that helping that mind-body relationship?
I've been realizing lately too, we have this idea, I'm going to have this today, but I'm not going to have it tomorrow. Like tomorrow, I'll completely start my diet or whatever. And that's a complete misunderstanding of how behavioral habits go. Because the best predictor of what I'm going to do tomorrow is what I do today. But this is a big cultural idea that it's okay to have these treats today. I know they're not good for me, but they're not that bad. That's a lie. Maybe a lie that they're not that bad. And then tomorrow, I'll just completely stop having that. That's not how that works. Yeah. Do you ever now have something you haven't eaten? Oh, yeah. I totally do. Is it Carla that asked that? Yeah. I totally still get the ideas. I don't think a little of this would hurt. Like one thing I decided to try last year is I'm just going to have a big piece of chocolate cake at dinner today. I don't think it'll matter. I'll stop tomorrow. For one thing, it set off cravings for a long time again, and I didn't have those cravings anymore. I had come to crave the good foods and not crave the non-nutritious stuff. For another thing, it caused really bad diarrhea. So that has to do with my gut microbiome. Excuse me for being so graphic. My gut microbiome had healed to a great degree. I think that's part of why all the pain and inflammation in my body went away.
Right.
And as soon as I introduced that kind of amount of sugar and flour into my gut again, I'm feeding the bad gut bacteria and making my gut inhospitable to the good bacteria.
Okay.
It's not true that nothing's happening in our body. It's not true that all that matters is calories.
Right. Yeah, and we've got to appreciate you being detailed. It helps to get the point across.
Right? I know. Well, I have experimented many times with many things, and I just keep proving it to myself. What I will tell you is having enough time away from them, getting a real break so your system gets to reconstitute, so those hormones start functioning right, your brain starts functioning right, your gut starts functioning right before you try reintroducing these things can really allow you to see, oh, that really does matter to me. What is it called if you're trying to check? Sonia knows this. Uh, what is it called when you're trying to check if you're allergic to or reactive to a particular food? An elimination diet, right? So the idea behind this is instead of attributing attributing my symptoms to one food when I ate 15 different foods, when I change 15 different things today, I'm going to only change one thing for a week, right? What we enjoy really can change. What I really discovered that I'm so proud of is we can crave the good stuff. And this is part of what I know to help people with. Go from craving the bad stuff, like, oh, I would miss it so much, to craving the good stuff. It's a completely different situation, right? Somebody asked what I'm drinking. It's a mineral water made by Coca-Cola. I live in Mexico. Coca-Cola was a disaster for the people in this culture for a long time. So I'm glad they're making this. It's just a mineral water. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we do have a question. And what are your thoughts on food journaling to see the transition?
Super helpful. Yeah. I did it for a year. I wrote down what I was eating and what any kind of comments about what I noticed, right? And I go back to it if I get myself off track and like, oh, but I know I had really bad diarrhea when I ate that, but it was really good. I really kind of want it now. It probably will be easier now. Yeah, because you're changing your system back. And all those things that go with that, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, etc., are what you're initiating again. And a sick gut is what you're initiating. It's just not true that all that matters there is the calories. That is very misleading for us.
Well, I love too that if you do food journaling, then you could really make it a very deliberate, dedicated time to be paying attention.
I do have this note. As long as we haven't passed certain thresholds, we can learn to feed our body what makes it truly healthy and happy, and our body will reset our weight back to a healthier level pretty naturally. And then we can just happily maintain eating this way if we choose to.
I'm just going to jump in here because I find this a lot in the field of exercise. People sort of think about the body as an object to control and,
Yes.
and manipulate. But there is an innate intelligence,
Yeah.
and it's that with movement if you work with it, and it's that way with the food too. So if you give the body what it needs, you don't have to keep micromanaging and manipulating to change your weight.
Yes.
Say, oh, all right, now that I've got good nourishment coming in, I can make all these other changes, and the weight will be one of those. But you don't have to. You don't have to make that happen as long as you're you need.
That's really exactly one of the big things I realized is I'm not going to force my body. I'm not in charge of all that. For one thing, there's a whole bunch of gut bacteria that are yelling for what they want to eat. And if I feed the bad gut bacteria, they're going to yell for more sugar, right? They're going to yell for more cake, etc. And there's a lot of them. There's billions of them. There are these little parasites, right? I can either feed the ones that are going to give me health, or I can feed the ones that are going to give me illness. It sort of gets that simple. Once we start to see it that way, we can choose to eat what's good for our body. Like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, I think that's a point that comes out of what you just said. Yeah, right. I could eat that. I know I'd get a moment of pleasure, but I choose not to.
Right.
Yeah. So, tomorrow and Thursday, I'm going to share why we think our diet's healthier than it is, why we're mistaken about that. It's important to get a breakthrough in this because to the extent we hold on to, I already know, there's no room for the information that's going to change your life. That's why I do 5 hours of getting you ready. Partly to knock out, maybe, like I had one belief that was very strong. I totally believed it. I proved it to myself over and over and over, and it was wrong. And it was driving part of my eating behavior that was driving my weight gain and my prediabetes. So we have to, there's nuance. that most of us have to learn that has to do with implementation, that has to do with why things work the way they work, right? So I really want to make sure you understand this. Part of it is because of the cheap tricks of the food industry. They are misleading us about what's healthy. And so we have to kind of get skeptical about what we're reading on the packaging, about what we're reading in the media, right? The women I work with in my program tell me all the time, yeah, I wasn't eating this healthy. And I had no idea it could be so enjoyable to eat this healthy. So I have a reflection I'm going to show on the screen for you. When do you say this phrase to yourself when it comes to eating and drinking? Do you say it about things that are truly nourishing for your body? I was only saying it about things that are not nourishing for my body. Right? I deserve this. I was only saying it about wine and desserts and the burger and fries. I was only saying it about things that were not actually truly good for me. So I want to invite you to reflect on this, because this attitude, I deserve this non-nutritious food-like substance, is something that we really want to change. Why am I only saying this about things that are not good for me? And I'm not recognizing that when I choose this thing and I say I deserve it, I'm sacrificing my ability to walk. I'm sacrificing my independence 5 or 10 years from now, right? My ability to still have my car and my home and all my own dog. Like the people in the nursing homes lose it all. That's the choice. So what I deserve is to feel really well. I deserve to enjoy my food, but not in this kind of, oh, that was so exciting, I don't even care that it's hurting me.
Right,
really?
right. But it's still getting, going through these 5 days of the, because I love the word that you used yesterday, right? Oh, the food environment really is that deranged.
It's deranged. And we're really going to talk about that more the next couple of days. So I hope everybody comes back, bring your questions, engage in the Facebook group. I said yesterday, if you engage with the material 14 times over 14 days, there's a likelihood it will stick with you and be beneficial. And if you don't, there's a likelihood it'll almost all be gone by the end of those 2 weeks. So if it feels like it's valuable for you enough to take your time to be here, engage, talk about it. Yeah. Make notes, etc. All right.
Participate in the Facebook group. Like, tell us what, oh, that means this too, right? Or, oh, that it's that important.
Right. If anything surprised you, if it brought up more questions, let us know in there. That's the best place. All right. Thank you all so much. Come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about the cheap tricks of the food industry, getting in the way of our knowing what's even healthy to eat.
See you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Paula. See you.